Welcome into Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We are coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes as we have Columbia bracketed. One of us north, one of us south. We were in Columbia yesterday. We'll be back later in the week, but right now we're just kind of slumming at the house. Wade, happy hump day.
Good to see you. Good to be with everybody. We got a big show lined up. Kind of cloudy today, so nowhere else we'd rather be than inside. Getting ready to tap into a big, kind of wide encompassing plethora of topics here today.
We got a lot to get to here over the next couple of hours as we bring you sports topics of local, regional, and national import, and we'll be hitting on all of that over the next couple of hours. So looking forward to doing so. In the second hour, we will be joined by Chris Lee of Southeastern16.com talking little SEC football, as we are wont to do from time to time. A lot went on this past weekend. Some of it still reverberating, I guess. And we've got a big weekend coming up, obviously. So looking forward to talking to Chris about his take on all of that. In the next segment, we will be joined by Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City as the Cup Series comes to her backyard this weekend. It's Bristol, baby. After Chris Buscher's win up at Watkins Glen, we'll get her take on that, on the upcoming, and of course on the Chiefs. So looking forward to visiting with Heather as we try to do every Wednesday and certainly every week.
Chiefs got a new back, an old back.
She does. Yeah, that's right.
A new old back. I think I got that.
A new old back or an old new. Yeah. Something old, something new. Yeah, all of that. We'll talk a little baseball here later in this hour. We got an interesting video courtesy of Wade's Astros to bring to you as well. So looking forward to that. We'll talk a little other NFL aside from Heather and her Chiefs. Obviously a little WNBA. There's some news both on and off the floor with them. And again, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We will wrap up the show in our final segment with some of the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Literally, we will be both domestic and international with Wild and Wacky Wednesday to close things out. So looking forward to that. That's what it's going to look like here for the next hour and 57 minutes-ish. So let's go ahead, I guess, with no further ado, seeing, no old business, no new business. Yeah. Let's go ahead and get into yesterday's results and today's schedule. The rundown.
This is the rundown.
To the scoreboard we go, and to the hardwood we go. Volleyball action from last night. Loretto defeating Athens Bible out of Alabama. 2-0 was your final there in favor of the Mustangs. Community with a 3-0 win versus Battle Creek. It was also 3-0 as Blackman defeated Oakland. Lincoln County and Columbia played a 5-set thriller. Lincoln County 3, Columbia 2 in that matchup. Columbia Academy on top of FRA. 3-0 was your score there. It was also 3-0 for Cookeville over Stewart's Creek and Eagleville over Culleoka. Perry County with a 3-2 win versus Hampshire. Lawrence County defeating Spring Hill 3-1 was your final there. Middle Tennessee Christian 3, BGA 2. Lewis County with a 3-2 win versus Mount Pleasant. Providence Christian on top of Grace Christian Franklin 3-0. It was Loretto 2, Rogers, Alabama 0. Siegel with a 3-1 win over Rockvale. University School of Nashville 3-0 over Webb School. And volleyball action concluded with a 3-1 win for Valor Collegiate over Gallatin.
On the pitch Tuesday, McGavock with a 2-0 victory over Antioch. It was Green Hill doubling up Blackman 2-1. Father Ryan and Brentwood Academy played to a 3-3 draw. Lipscomb Academy blanked CPA 3-0. It was Hillsboro 6, Cane Ridge 1. Rossview with a 7-0 victory over Clarksville Northeast. Henry County defeated Clarksville Northwest 3-1. Providence Christian with a 6-1 win over Columbia Academy. Fairview shutting out Creekwood 9-0. Culleoka with a 10-1 win over Richland. It was Goodpasture 7, Davidson Academy 2, Franklin County 4, Mount Juliet 1, Franklin Road Academy with a 4-0 victory over Webb School of Bell Buckle, Harpeth 5-0 over McEwen, Hendersonville 4, Clarksville 0, Cheatham County 4, Hickman County 1. It was Valor Collegiate defeating Hume Fogg 7-0. Overton with a 2-2. Well, Overton and Lead Academy played to a 2-2 draw. Zion Christian defeated Lawrence County 5-2. Lebanon edging Cookeville 2-1. Lincoln County doubled up Columbia Central 4-2. And Middle Tennessee Christian doubled up St. Andrews Sewanee 2-1.
A couple more soccer scores to get into as Tullahoma defeated Murfreesboro Central Magnet. Good contest there. 2-1 was your final. Again, favoring Tullahoma. Nashville Christian 9-0 versus Ezell Harding. Summit on top of Page 4-1 was your final. Station Camp picking up a 9-0 win over Portland. Ravenwood 7, Centennial 0. Merrill Hyde with a 9-0 win versus Republic. Rockvale 7, Riverdale 2. It was Siegel 2, Oakland 1. Good showdown between those two rivals there. Shelbyville on top of Spring Hill 5-0. Kirkwood with a 3-1 win versus Springfield. It was Stewart's Creek 8, Smyrna 0. Sycamore on top of Montgomery Central 9-0. BGA taking care of University School of Nashville 6-2. It was West Creek 1, Dixon County 0. White House Heritage with a 7-2 victory over East Robertson, and Wilson Central defeating Laverne 8-1. Major League Baseball scores from last night. The Reds defeating the Braves 6-5. A couple of one-run ball games. The Astros on top of the Padres 4-3. Nashville Sounds, they were a wash last night. Postponed. More on them later. WNBA action from last night. Almost a full slate of games as the Liberty defeated the Mystics 87-71. Minnesota took care of Connecticut 78-76. The Dream defeated the Sky 86-70. It was the Aces on top of the Storm 85-72. And the Mercury taking care of the Sparks 85-81.
You had Brittany Griner and Rakea Jackson squaring off at one point in that one, by the way. A little fireworks, a little sparky between the Sparks and the Mercury there. Volleyball today, 5:30. Spring Hill travels to Franklin Christian. On the pitch, St. Cecilia is at Harpeth Hall. That's a 4:30 for first touch. Also, Kip Nashville is at Stratford at 5 o'clock. Major League Baseball action, 5:40 starts for both Atlanta at Cincinnati on Valley Sports South and Houston at San Diego on MLBTV.com. The Sounds will, I would say, continue, but since they did not play yesterday, will start their series at Norfolk at 4:35 today. That will be a doubleheader to make up for yesterday's rainout. And on the professional pitch over at Geodis Park, the Nashville Soccer Club, coming off of their big win over the weekend down at Atlanta United, will be at home against the Chicago Fire. A 7:30 first touch. You can see it on Apple TV. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly and Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and get through there for their delicious daily deli lunch options available from 11 a to 6 p. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And if you are an NBA beat writer, your job probably got a little easier today.
The throne is vacant.
ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, famous for the Woj bombs hashtag, has retired from that position as their NBA lead writer. And this is a pretty significant retirement, not just from a professional standpoint, but from a financial standpoint. Woj was still had, well, Wojnarowski still had 3 years remaining on his contract with ESPN at $7 million per year. Do the math. The man is walking away from $21 million. But I mean, how much money do you need? And he is going to take his dream job. We've heard this phrase, we've heard this title a little bit more here over the past few weeks and months. Wojnarowski is going to become general manager of the St. Bonaventure's men's basketball team. That's his alma mater up in upstate New York, and he is, he's excited to get back to his roots, I guess. The man is 55 years old and retiring. It's a little disgusting to me, but at the same time, kudos to him for being able to do it. And I mean, if he's walking away from 21 million, how much has he made? So,
and how much is he going to make in this new position?
Well, he ain't gonna make 21 million.
Not that much.
No.
It's like Gronk, right? He never spent any of his NFL money. He's living off the endorsement money. Maybe Woj is going to retire off of his ESPN salary, and now he's going to just vacation off of his St. Bonnie money.
There you go. Hey, it's great work if you can get it. But the NBA insider, again, returning to his alma mater, it is a thrill of a lifetime to be able to return to a university and community that I love in a role of service to our student athletes, coaches, and institution. I am hopeful that I can bring value in a lot of areas to our basketball program and open doors for our young men's futures in ways both professionally and personally. That's awesome to be able to do that and to be able to go back to your alma mater and be of value. And clearly he will be. I mean, his contacts in the sport, both at the professional and the collegiate level, can't be anything but a positive to St. Bonaventure of the Atlantic 10 as they, try to kind of get back to their glory years. And anybody that has done anything for, the period of time that he has will understand this. I understand the commitment required in my role, and it's an investment that I am no longer driven to make. Time isn't in endless supply, and I want to spend mine in ways that are more personally meaningful. Who among us does that not resonate with? But the man has been at ESPN for the last 7 years, and he does set the tone in terms of NBA coverage, particularly his insider stuff. And so it's great that he's able to do this. And again, being able to go back to your alma mater and bring some value to them is a pretty big deal, I think. CBS Sports' Isaac Trotter, kind of delving into the collegiate general manager role, says building a winning team is the end goal for everybody, but for some it might look like the Oakland A's version of Moneyball. Identifying which players to target in the transfer portal or from the high school ranks is valuable. How much to pay them will loom large in a salary cap era that feels inevitable after the noteworthy house settlement agreement. There are values to be had in the transfer portal, and general managers can help uncover them with database analysis, an eye for scheme-based fits, and on-point behind-the-scenes intel. St. Bonnie AD Bob Beretta goes on to say, Woj is the perfect person to fill this new role, combining his intimate knowledge of St. Bonaventure and our Franciscan values with a deep network of relationships he has built across the worlds of professional and intercollegiate basketball. The fact that the preeminent journalist in his field is willing to walk away from a lucrative media career to serve his alma mater in a support role is a testament to his love and passion for Bonas. And
yeah, good spin for them. Great get for them from a PR standpoint. And if you're ever in a pinch and need some journalistic assistance, obviously you got a great resource there with him coming aboard. And you're right, Mo. I mean, this is a guy that's been doing this for so long. I've still never read The Miracle of St. Anthony, but always heard how great of a book that it was and kind of put Woj on the map. And I did read him a lot growing up. You know, when he really kind of rose to prominence back in his Yahoo days, was kind of during my college years in 2006, 2007, kind of just consuming any NBA news that I could get. And he kind of found that niche, and kind of to the extent of Adam Schefter. I mean, he was kind of that preeminent news breaker, even at Yahoo. And then the fact that ESPN gobbles him up just took their coverage to a new level that we didn't see for a while. So that was massive. And there's going to be a role, whether it's Shams or, somebody else that's going to, have to assume the throne. But there were a lot of folks that were logging on Twitter today, myself included, and the notifications for Woj have now been turned off. We don't need to have our phones on standby for the Woj bomb anymore.
No more Woj bombs, apparently, unless you are concerned with St. Bonnie's.
And I love St. Bonaventure, but yeah, we ain't into it that much.
It'll be interesting to see, like you said. Will it be Shams? Will it be Windhorse? I mean, who ascends to that position for ESPN? Because I mean, it's certainly you kind of feel like
be Windhorse for ESPN, but as Shams is at the Athletic, so I mean, as far as like who becomes the guy, right? ESPN was fortunate kind of to have Woj and Windhorse kind of as a 1-2 tag team of sorts. And so, a friend of mine texted me that this morning when we all got the news and said, does this mean Shams just automatically takes over? Or does this mean, hey, you're going to have to work at it and have to get a lot better? Because he's had a few. He hasn't been bulletproof with some of his reporting in the last year or two. And so it'll be interesting. But yeah, one last Woj bomb. Going out with a bang today.
Yeah, one last Woj bomb on himself. Yeah. I mean, that's
how it had to end, right?
Well, I mean, you can't get scooped on that.
No.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want Schefter breaking your scoop.
Yeah. ESPN NBA reporter Adrian Wojnarowski will be leaving. Yeah, that couldn't happen. So, great for him. I mean, when you're able to step back from the madhouse that job has to be to do it to the level that he has done it for as long as he has done it, and be able to step into something else that you love even more, probably makes it feel a lot less like work. But just kudos to him. And I will tell you, anytime in this business you are able to engineer your own departure, that's a big deal. So again, kudos to him. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we'll talk a little NASCAR with Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City. Big weekend coming up for her. Stay tuned. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
He shoots, and he scores!
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely, and we are now joined by our NASCAR expert, Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City, as the Cup Series gets ready to invade her backyard. It's Bristol, baby.
It's Bristol, baby. It is that time. It's busy time. That's why I'm a little more casual than I normally am, because it is work this week for sure.
It is work this week, and it's supposed to be hot this weekend, I guess. So the casual will probably continue through the week, I would imagine. Yeah,
but it's a night race. I think the lows are supposed to get into the 50s overnight. Ooh. So by the time we get into the bulk of the racing, it actually probably be quite pleasant.
Oh, you're talking 50 and pleasant. Okay, whatever. Anyway, hey, before we spin too far into Bristol, though, what were your thoughts regarding a non-playoff driver winning at Watkins Glen this past weekend?
I mean, just when you think you have seen some of the most incredible finishes you'll ever see this season, another one happens. The battle between Shane Van Gisbergen and Chris Buescher at the end of that race, I don't know what my neighbors thought was going on in my apartment, but I was literally screaming for like a lap and a half. It was fantastic. It was so cool to get that excited about two drivers in the grand scheme of things. They're only racing for a win, right? They're not racing. They're just racing for the trophy. They're not racing for their jobs. They're not racing for the playoffs. And it was unbelievable. Then you add to the fact that the playoff drivers all had a lot of trouble, and there were only two playoff drivers in the top 10. So it had drama for the win. It had drama within the playoffs. And now there's some really big names that are kind of in trouble as we go to Bristol, which is fascinating. But no drivers have been eliminated. Joey Logano's locked in on his win. The other 15 drivers, nobody's safe. Nobody's eliminated. They are all racing for their playoff lives this weekend in Bristol.
I mean, is that kind of not what you dream of going into Bristol? Is kind of the bare minimum has been decided, the one spot, everything else kind of up for grabs, it seems like?
Yeah, and wouldn't you want to do it anywhere else other than Bristol, where literally anything can happen? I can remember last year, Joey Logano, the defending champ, wrecked out and was eliminated from the first round of the playoffs. The defending champ gone. 2 years ago, every single Joe Gibbs racing car had issues, and all the Toyotas were just having some sort of issue during the race, and so a lot of them were in peril. I think Kyle Busch ended up getting eliminated, and maybe Truex as well, but definitely Kyle Busch after Bristol. So you just never know what's going to happen to a track like Bristol. And to have 15 drivers needing to have solid performances and none of them feeling comfortable, that's exactly what NASCAR wants.
Heather, I guess let's look at it two ways real quick. Who maybe of the playoff drivers, who had the best result or maybe comes out of the weekend feeling the best? And maybe on the other side, who comes out of this past weekend feeling the worst in your mind?
Well, if you're Austin Cindric or Alex Bowman, you definitely came out feeling the best. They both finished in the top 10. I believe they were the two drivers. They have the best average finish of any of the playoff drivers over these races. And they're two guys that not very many people had coming out of the first round. And they're actually on the comfortable side in the points, more so than a lot of people. So I think they come out really feeling like short of a win. They couldn't have been in a better position, especially where they started coming into Bristol. The driver who is very confident coming into Bristol, and it makes sense because he's won the last two Bristol races, but just has had a disaster start to the playoffs, is Denny Hamlin. I mean, first half of the season, we're talking about Hamlin as, compete for the championship. Now he's minus 6 points to the cut line, in danger of not making this second round of the playoffs. Now, I think if there's any track in the world that Denny was going to, with needing a win or needing a really good performance, and he can only pick one, Bristol would absolutely be that track, because he is slowly inched his name into the conversation of Kyle Busch and Kurt Busch and Rusty Wallace as far as best to run in Bristol, especially in the more modern era of NASCAR. But he's still in a little bit of trouble, and I don't think any of us saw that coming into the playoffs.
Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little NASCAR. Heather, as we went into Atlanta for the first playoff race, the talk was that the playoff drivers are basically just trying to kind of stay clean and get through that one. Now all of a sudden, as you said, with 15 of 16 spots still undecided, that's not the case coming in. That kind of poses a problem, I would think.
Well, it's only a problem if you're one of those 15 drivers. The rest of us are loving it. I mean, it's gonna be fantastic. And the thing is that everybody who wanted to go into Atlanta and was glad to just not have any trouble in hopes of staying in it. But instead, almost everybody's had trouble, which has kept everybody in it. So, I mean, I think it could have been much worse for someone like Denny Hamlin if nobody else had a problem. In the past, a performance like he's had in the first couple races of the playoffs might have you 30, 40 points behind. But because everybody's had trouble, he's only 6 points behind. So it could be much, much worse for some of these drivers.
And I guess that's how they have to look at it at this point.
For sure. And, Bristol is a race where it is more on the drivers. I mean, you do have to have more of a car under you than, say, like at Daytona, where it's all about the draft and the drivers, or Atlanta or something like that. But it is a track where you don't have to have blazing 1.5 mile speed to be competitive. I mean, Matt DiBenedetto in a really underfunded Levine Family Racing car came in here one year and almost won the darn thing. So you don't have to have necessarily the best car to win at Bristol. You just have to be good at Bristol. Most of these playoff drivers are. So I think most of them feel really good coming into Bristol. I think Denny, probably of the guys that really need to win, feel the best coming into Bristol because he has won the last two races here. But yeah, I mean, it's wide open, and that's what's going to make it so much fun this year.
When you consider who has run well at Bristol or who hasn't run well at Bristol, maybe go at it that way. Who historically has not run well at Bristol, and who do you feel like has the least chance of moving on after Saturday night?
Well, I think you look at Harrison Burton minus 20 points out. He's decent at Bristol, but he's not amazing. It's not one of his best tracks. So he would really have to have. Now, the Wood brothers have been pretty good here. Not great either, but pretty good here. But he would have to have a career night, much like he had at Daytona, to move on. So I think Harrison Burton advancing out of the first round would probably be a surprise to people. There would have to be not only a career performance from him, but some guys above him having trouble. Martin Truex Jr. is not amazing here at Bristol, former champ. He's good, again, but he only has 2 career wins, one in the Xfinity Series and one in the truck on dirts here. So it's not like a great track for him. And he is minus 14 points back, I believe, or 12. And So it's the same thing. He would have to have a career night here, and some people above him would have to have trouble. Denny and Brad, who are the other two drivers that are out, are both very good here at Bristol, so they probably feel a little bit more confident. Then the guys that are in, you look at Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs has won here in the Xfinity Series, hasn't done much of the Cup Series here at Bristol, so he's probably a guy that's a little bit concerned. Some of the drivers that are higher up in the standings are not great at Bristol. They're good, but not great, like a Daniel Suarez or an Alex Bowman. But those guys have more points to play with, so they could run 16th place, a lap down, and probably still be all right, as long as they don't have huge troubles and end up 36th. So it's interesting because somebody is going to have huge troubles and end up 36. It's happened in every one of these playoff races so far. So it's just avoiding that.
Cool.
Heather, this is a little, pardon me, off the track. But I found an article on The Athletic, and I had missed this. In late August, there was a story posed and some comments made by Kyle Larson after a race up in Knoxville, where he claims that he's the world's best all-around driver, and that even includes our boy over in F1, Max Verstappen. Is this something that picked up any steam in the NASCAR community? And if so,
yeah.
curious your thoughts.
Oh, yeah. And my thoughts are, based on what we've seen, I would probably agree with Kyle. Little caveat, I'm not the biggest F1 fan in the world, but I just think because of the diversity of tracks that Kyle runs and the different kinds of cars that he runs,
yes, that
it'd be hard to prove otherwise. Like Max is, at the moment, the best F1 driver there is. I don't even know that he's the best ever because, Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton and some other people would probably like a word. But, as far as right now, he is absolutely the best driver in that paddock at the moment. But Kyle runs open wheel cars. He ran IndyCar, ran it very well, runs dirt cars and wing sprint cars and dirt modifieds. He runs cup cars. He runs trucks, and he's good in all those disciplines. He runs, just regular short track, asphalt short tracks. So it's really hard to argue, in my opinion, against Kyle just because of the diversity of types of cars that he can drive.
And that's what's mentioned a couple times in this article, for what it's worth.
I guess if you're the best, it ain't bragging, right?
I mean, Kyle's a pretty humble guy. My guess is somebody asked him that question. I don't think that Kyle would just come out and declare that. I haven't read the article. I heard a bunch about it. I haven't read it, but my guess is somebody asked him that question. I don't think he's not the kind of guy who would just go, "I'm the greatest." Now there are plenty of those guys in the garage area, but Kyle ain't one of them.
With that being said, real quick, you kind of piqued my curiosity too. Who maybe? I mean, my thought would be Tony Stewart, I guess. Who's the next person, or who was the predecessor, if you will, to Larson in terms of that diversity in the number of fields that they're great at?
Yeah, I mean, I think the close, or I mean, in recent history, it would definitely be Tony, especially since you added in the drag racing that he's now doing. Although he hasn't been super successful in the drag racing, he is in the top level in the top field car, so he is having some success. But you can go back to Mario and Mario Andretti ran some NASCAR. He ran some dirt stuff. Oh my gosh, I'm having a blank on the guy, the 14 car in IndyCar. Anyway, there's been some other guys that have crossed over into IndyCar and NASCAR and run some other disciplines. Why his name just totally escaped me. It's going to drive me nuts. He's Tony Stewart's mentor, AJ Foyt. Glad I pulled that out. AJ
I'm
Foyt.
glad you pulled that out too. Yeah.
I know, because neither one of you, I know neither one of you are gearheads, so I know you were no help. But
anybody who knew who you were talking about that you couldn't.
Yeah, they were
out,
yelling at the screen. They were yelling at the screen right now.
AJ Foyt. Yeah.
I'm glad I pulled that out. But yes, those two were definitely like the OGs of all that crossover and running different disciplines. But in modern day, the closest thing to Kyle would probably be Tony Stewart.
So I guess what the final take-home point there is we're kind of witnessing greatness in many respects.
For sure. Although his Cup season, and it's really funny, and this is just something about Kyle, but once they hit the postseason or late in the regular season, he really doesn't run all those dirt cars and other things because he wants to focus on his Cup. But since he stopped running all those things, he's kind of fallen off a little bit in performance in Cup. And I don't know if it's a rhythm thing or what, but he's got to pick it up a little bit. He's safe, I think, as far as advancing, but if he wants to make the new championship four, they're going to have a little pickup in performance themselves.
Maybe he responds a little bit better to being busy, being, stretched out a little bit.
Yeah, I think he likes the chaos of that. I do.
Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City. Speaking of chaos, the Chiefs' backfield has seen a little with Isaiah Pacheco going down, and the return of the Mac, Kareem Hunt coming back.
Yeah, he's on the practice squad this week, so let's not get too excited yet. They signed him. They're going to put him on the practice squad, see if he's got anything left, because his numbers in Cleveland last year would show that he doesn't have a whole lot left. But I mean, they like him for the same reason they brought back Mecole Hardman last year in the playoff run. The reason they brought back Juju, they like guys. They're at the point now where they're really all in on this three-peat, and they like guys that know the system, that aren't going to take a long time to bring up to speed on what they're doing. And when Kareem was there, Matt Nagy was the OC, so he knows how Nagy's offenses work. And so I think that's the biggest reason. This weekend, they'll probably just go with a steady diet of Samaje Perine, who was their kind of third down back that they signed in the offseason, and then just see what happens after that.
There's suddenly a little hamstrung with Pacheco being out, and Edwards-Helaire already having been out with non-football related injury. Is that right?
Yeah, he's got a condition. It's kind of it's a psychological condition that makes him very physically ill. And so he's out working on that. He's actually played with it the last couple of years, but it's just gotten worse. And so he's out trying to get that settled. They expect him to be back at some point this year, and he's still with the team, but just not playing at this point.
And if you get desperate, I guess you could go intimidation, Heather, because, Carson Steele does have that pet alligator that they keep showing. So,
Carson came in at the end of the game when Pacheco was hurt and got a couple of big runs and a couple of at least one really big first down. But he's a rookie, so he did have a fumble in the game, as a rookie. So I don't think they want to put too much on his shoulders. I would say Perine will be the featured back this week.
That's somewhat fascinating to me because the Chiefs, I respect and enjoy watching the heck out of the Chiefs for what that's worth. But if you're not a Chiefs fan, these are the type of moves that aggravate you so much because you don't know anything about Carson Steele, and the Chiefs are like, yeah, we'll roll him out there, no problem. A dude that was at Ball State and then ended up at UCLA, sure, bring him off and let's make him look great. But if you're a Chiefs fan, then you're like, yeah, this is the system, this is how we do things. So I see the paradigm there. And
it's really one of the things that really is what makes the Chiefs great. Patrick Mahomes makes the Chiefs great, but Patrick Mahomes is very, very expensive, as is Chris Jones, as is Travis Kelce, and now as is center Creed Humphrey. So for them to really sustain the success, they've got to find the Carson Steeles, the L'Jarius Sneeds, who was here, that is now a Titan, but they drafted him in the 5th round. Those kind of players, they have to find and make stars because they can't afford to go out and sign big time free agents. They don't, they've done a few free agent signings and they've worked out well, but none of them have been huge names. The Chiefs have just coached. They found people they think have raw talent. They've coached them up and they've turned them into important role players on this team. And that's why they're successful every bit as much as why is having Patrick Mahomes, right? Because the Packers had Aaron Rodgers for years and couldn't put enough talent around him to ever win Super Bowls. And the Chiefs are very, very good at finding those hidden gems, those talents around them, and that's what makes them champions.
Very Patriot 2.0, right?
Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah, very much so. It's a lot out of their same playbook. The fortunate thing is Chiefs fans is that they were able to start much earlier because Mahomes started his second year, whereas Brady was already much older than Patrick when he started becoming a starting quarterback.
Broadcast divided this week. It's Chiefs and Falcons. You two better play nice this weekend.
I got no delusions of the Falcons.
We're banged
being
up.
able
Hollywood
to-
Brown.
Sunday night in the bins. I mean, crazier things have happened. And the Chiefs are fortunate in many respects to be 2-0 right now.
We make our own luck.
I mean, for sure. There's same with the Patriots. I mean, the same fans that were frustrated with them are sensing the same frustrations. And I 100% agree. You make your own luck for sure.
It's so funny being on this side of it right now because I was like most people and was really tired of the Patriots. But I get it now. I get it now. I do. It's totally different now.
It's just funny because on Monday you wake up and you see all the memes about
the refs. Good Lord.
Well, about officials in red and white striped jerseys and that kind of thing, and
the jersey exchange with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, all of that.
But come on. You guys are both not Chiefs fans. You're fans of other teams, right? That was pass interference.
Oh,
that
for
was
sure.
pass. I mean, that was textbook pass interference. I just don't know. And to me, you kind of lose credence when you
it's a non-starter for any argument you want to have because
if you're saying that wasn't pass interference, then we can't talk. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but it's cool. By the way, Mo, I wore this shirt for you today.
What? Oh, look at you. A little bear action. Okay.
I mean, since starting next year.
Yep. We'll you'll have to wear that, and I'll have to grab. Well, Wade and I will both have to grab our Blue Raider gear on Wednesdays. Yep. We will.
I'm used to defending myself, Solamente, so it's all good.
I tell you what, though, Solamente or not, I'm not sure anybody can top your set there.
Oh, you like this?
We've had some pretty good guest sets and backgrounds and that kind of thing, but that's pretty solid right there.
So right here, I wish I could move the camera. That is an actual hood off a NASCAR. It is off of Brian Vickers' race car from like 2008 or 9. It's been sitting in my apartment for years with not a thing to do with it. And when we started constructing this podcast studio, it's actually the first thing I brought to put in here because it needed out of my apartment.
Well, if you've got anything else along those lines that needs out of your apartment, we might have a spot for it. So
okay, next time I run into a large piece of sheet metal off a race car, I'll drop it off to you.
Do that. Absolutely. Heather Williams, WCYB TV out of Johnson City, joining us as she does most every Wednesday, talking a little NASCAR. Heather, we will talk to you next week after Bristol and after Chiefs Falcons.
Sounds good. Hopefully I'll have good news for me and bad news for you. Sorry.
Thank you, Heather.
We'll talk to you later.
Get her out of here.
Yep, get her out of here. Hey, when we continue on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, speaking of bad news, let's talk a little Braves.
You wanna be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
Welcome to JHA Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia. But now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. JHA Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
So Busy Bee is a very close-knit family. We fight just like every family does. We have arguments, but we always come out with a solution to the problems. We don't just fight about what we want, we fight about what customers need. We want to make sure that every customer we go to is more than satisfied. And that doesn't just start whenever we show up at their door, that starts when we show up every day at work. We want to make sure that we are serving our customers to the best of our ability.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. September 18th, 1962, Hank Aaron went 2 for 4 with his 40th home run of the season. Tommy Aaron went 3 for 4 and drove in 3 runs, and Milwaukee defeated visiting Los Angeles 10-5. The Hammer finished the season with 45 homers, his second best single season total, and one of his 8 40 home run campaigns over his oh-so illustrious 23-year career. That was this day in Braves history. Yesterday in Braves history did not go so well. The Braves got up 3-0, 4-1, and 5-2, and lost 6-5 up at the Great American Small Park in Cincinnati to open a 3-game series. That and the Mets' 10-1 win over Washington puts Atlanta 2 games back of the final wild card spot out of the National League here as we speak. So, with their 3rd straight loss, things not looking so great for Atlanta at this moment. Now, there is talk that Ozzie might be on the way back. I think he went 2 for 4 with a home run at Gwinnett last night, hitting strictly right-handed because the left wrist is still not 100%, but enough that he could play, he feels like. So we may see him this weekend, but I'm just not sure at this point, and I hate to say it. I'm not sure that it's going to matter. I mean, they've got to be close enough to the Mets for that series next week in Atlanta to mean something. And you know, I'm feeling a little shaky on whether or not it will. Now, the good thing is they go to Miami when they leave Cincinnati.
That should be in your favor.
It should be in our favor, and even more in our favor, we don't have to see Ryan Weathers because the former Loretto standout is set to start today for Miami, according to friend of the show, Christina DiNicola, in a tweet that I saw last night, I think. Yeah, Weathers going against Landon Knack and the Dodgers this evening. That'll be his first start back off the 60-day DL. So hoping for some good things for Ryan. 3-5 with a 3.55 ERA, and was really starting to throw some of his best ball before he had that issue with the finger. So hopefully he can get a couple of starts and finish with a high note and go into the offseason feeling pretty good about his 2024. But
and he's a gamer, but you also know he's like, man, come on, the Dodgers, you this is the game you bring me back for?
Yeah, I think
Ohtani hit 2 home runs. Come on.
That's and Ohtani has what, 2 homers and 2 homers and 2 steals short. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Weathers is a gamer, and he's a dog. He's ready to get out there, but he's also like, come on, man, you couldn't have brought me back a day or two before this.
Had to be here. Yeah. So not the best place to be, but hey, I'm sure he's just glad to be back on a major league mound at this point after this last couple of months. Astros 4, San Diego 3 in 10 last night, evening up that series out at Petco Park, but it was not without its dramatics, I don't guess, because in the 9th inning, Jose Altuve hits a dribbler down the third baseline and is thrown out. Jose contends that the ball was off his foot and should have been foul. Home plate umpire disagreed. Jose goes on and tries to prove that it was off his foot. Producer Mark, have you seen this, Wade?
Not the full clip. No, I just saw the still photos.
Brendan Miller is not ingratiating himself to Astros players, coaches, or manager.
You got to ask for help.
You got to check with other umpires to see if it did hit Altuve.
Altuve needs to be pulled out of the situation. They need to keep him in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's 3-3 right now. I'm kind of agreeing with that.
It did not hit Altuve in the end of the inning.
A little foreshadowing there.
Altuve showing where it hit his foot, and now he's ejected.
Oh,
Full on PGA mode right there, stripping down to the barefoot.
See, here's where the ball hit me. Yeah.
Wow.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Here's where it hit me. Come on. Ask somebody for help.
What else do I got to do to prove it, man?
There's the bruise. How else did I get that? Come on now. Yeah. But the Astros did prevail without shoeless Jose. Again, 4-3 in 10. So as they continue to hold off the Mariners in the AL West, Braves 540 start tonight. Spencer Schwellenbach 6-7 with a 3.73 ERA, going against Jacob Junis. I recognize that name from somewhere. Is he a former Sound? I'm not sure, but he's 4-0 with a 2.73 ERA. He will get the start for Cincinnati tonight again. 5:40 first pitch up at the Great American Ballpark. Also 5:30 here as the Astros and the Padres get started. That's a 3:30 start in San Diego, and that's a little odd, but okay. Framber Valdez, 14-6 with a 2.91 ERA for the Astros. Dylan Cease, hey, both these guys have thrown no hitters, right? No, Valdez hadn't thrown one this year.
Now, Valdez was one out away. That was cutting me close there. Come on now.
Yeah, my bad. Cease 13-11 with a 3.58 ERA, getting the start for San Diego. So a couple of intriguing matchups for different reasons. Real quick before
last game of the series, so that's why they're getting it out early today, I guess.
Early, yeah, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. That's just that 3:30 Pacific time start is odd. It's not.
If you're going to start early, why not start at noon, right?
Right, yeah, but interesting. The Major League Baseball Players Association has filed lawsuits against DraftKings, FanDuel, Underdog, and Bet365 saying that those betting operations have wrongfully used the names and likenesses of MLB players, using player names and imaging for prop bets despite having no license to do so. So, it feels like, and I don't partake in that just because I don't have that kind of money, but it just feels like to me it was kind of a matter of time before somebody was going to run afoul of something along these lines.
Yeah, this is kind of unusual. And I really don't know what to make of all this, because on one hand, DraftKings and FanDuel and these other sites on the daily fantasy side of things, to the best of my recollection, the likenesses are there. They have the names, but so I don't understand where you draw the line between the daily fantasy contests that are still for money and still theoretically gambling, as opposed to the prop bets. So I'm going to have to do a little more digging before I can figure out what the heck's going on here.
Well, and it's interesting because apparently they don't use those type images for NFL players when they promote prop bets.
Yeah, so I don't know what your strategy is. The funny thing is the NFL, you're more likely to recognize an MLB player by their face than you would be an NFL player because the guy's got helmets on.
Right.
So I don't know.
Defendants' use of player images within their sportsbook platforms is not merely informational, it is promotional. Users could bet that the Phillies will beat the Marlins or that Bryce Harper will hit more than 2 home runs in a given game without seeing Harper's valuable image, and there is no other purpose for using popular MLB player names and images in advertising other than to increase the consumer appeal of the apps and draw users to make bets on the platforms, particularly given that the core information that bettors need in order to make informed decisions about placing sports bets is statistical data. So the Players Association is arguing that the appearance of those likenesses could imply their endorsement of sports betting in general or of the platform being used. So
other interesting wrinkle to this, I did find this on The Athletic. This is the second or third kind of lawsuit. The Pirates and the Players Inc. Were involved in this gas station called Sheetz, Sheetz. And so same deal. And it was quickly settled out of court. So if nothing else, this is almost like, well, hey, all we got to do is file the lawsuit and we can get this settled, and maybe a little extra change for everybody for the good of the order. Because it doesn't seem like there's really any good reason to have this likeness in there other than promoting, like you said, all the benefit seemingly goes to the betting platforms and not to the athletes or the Players Association.
Yeah, and that's, that one-way benefit, that can't stand for very long. So, yeah.
You got to pay the toll in some shape, form, or fashion.
Absolutely. That's going to conclude our number 1 of Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company Studios for for hour 2, Wacky Wednesday, let's go to the grab bag, see what we can come up with. Stay tuned after the break. Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, is upon us. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And let's get into the grab bag. Jim Wyatt of TitansOnline.com reports that 8 former Titans have been nominated for the Pro Football 2025 Hall of Fame induction class. So let's see. Delaney Walker is up for consideration. He's a first-year eligible. Also nominated Steve McNair, Eddie George, Chris Johnson, Lorenzo Neal, Derek Mason, Samari Roll, and Gary Anderson. So 8 Titans to be considered for the class of 25. 94 total offensive players, 56 defensive, and 17 special teams players. Now, keep in mind there's only one special teamer in the Pro Football Hall of Famer, and he just went in this past year, Devin Hester.
No kickers or punters?
I don't believe so. Oh, okay. So he might be the first returner. That's a good question.
That's what I was wondering. Because it feels like you got to have at least 1 or 2
you would
kickers
think,
in there.
Then isn't he? Surely.
Which makes me believe that how's Gary Anderson not in? Was he not one of the all-time great kickers?
Thought so. Let's see. Pro Football Hall of Fame special team players.
By the way, I'll dig it up and send it to you guys. We'll maybe run it on the show tomorrow. Elite throwback from 1999, I think, of the Jets. One day they were forced to use Tom Tupa, who's their third-string quarterback, but you also may know him better as their punter. And his stat line was wild. He was like 5 of 8 for 2 touchdowns and like 180 yards. Keyshawn had a TD. I'm going to send you guys the link. We'll talk about it on the show tomorrow because it was a day for the punters. He was out there throwing in punting shoes. 5 kickers in the Hall of Fame, apparently.
5?
Including Morton Anderson.
Yeah, I'm looking at 4. I'm seeing Morton Anderson, George Blanda, Lou Groza, and Jan Stenerud.
And Ray Guy, I guess, the only punter.
Okay, so he's a punter. Yeah.
Man,
Okay.
toss him a bone there, man.
There we go. All right. All right. So again,
how's McNair not in there already?
I don't know how long he's been eligible, but so again, 94 offensive, 56 defensive, and 17 special teams players nominated for the class of 25. A screening committee will reduce that list to 50, and that list will be announced in a few weeks, middle of next month. From there, the full 50-person Hall of Fame selection committee will reduce that list to 25 semifinalists. Another vote will give you 15 finalists. And then ahead of Super Bowl, what is that? 49? My Roman numerals is a little rusty. I think that's 49, but they will have 3, 4, or 5 modern era players to come out of that. So
59.
59.
We're getting old.
There we go.
That's a lot of Super Bowls. Super Bowls and WrestleManias. Shout out to Shirt. They're racking up on us a little too quicker than we would like.
Yeah. Thanks for the help there. 59. Okay. So again, Delaney Walker joins Steve McNair, Eddie George, Chris Johnson, Lorenzo Neal, Derek Mason, Samari Roll, and Gary Anderson as Titans under consideration for induction as part of the class of 25. So
CJ2K was recognized at the Titans game as kind of their honorary 12th Titan, the hype man during the third quarter. He had the crowd fired up. And every now and again, speaking of old highlights, every now and again, I'll go down a wormhole and somebody will share some Chris Johnson highlights. And I find myself there for like 15 minutes because that dude was epic.
Oh, man, he was electric. Every now and then, like you said, I'll see something. Somebody will pop something up on Facebook or something like that, and I can't not look at it. You know, those type videos are kind of like Jason Williams videos.
Yes.
I cannot not look if I come across it. Gotta watch. So it was announced earlier today, and I don't know that this was any huge surprise, really, but Portland will become the 15th city to have a WNBA franchise. They were awarded an expansion franchise that will begin play in 2026. Currently the league is at 12 teams. Golden State is getting a team that will play next year. Toronto is getting a team that will begin playing in 26. So they're going to play with an odd number of teams next year, it sounds like. That's what I take from that. And that's odd.
Yeah. And it's cool to see, obviously, this going in the right direction. And I'm not going to lie, I had flat out forgot that there was a WNBA franchise in Portland for a couple of years, the Portland Fire. This article kind of refreshed my memory from 2000 to 02, but that is a community that really supports basketball. The Pacific Northwest, everybody talks about the NBA's got to return to Seattle one day, hopefully. But having a WNBA franchise in Portland seems like you said, a no-brainer in many regards too.
Right. So they're going to be at 15 for 2026. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert says she is pretty confident the league can grow 2028. When that will happen and where the 16th team will play is still unclear, however. A lot of folks in the mid-state area saying, we know a spot. Again, we spoke with Sherry Kemp last week regarding Athletes Unlimited coming to bringing their pro basketball season to Nashville for next February. And a lot of people seem to feel like that's kind of a precursor or certainly a trial balloon for maybe Nashville getting the WNBA. Because, traditionally And obviously, if you look at where most of the franchises are located, they kind of work and piggyback in conjunction with NBA teams, Seattle being a notable exception there. But most of the towns, most of the cities that teams are in also have NBA teams. So Nashville would kind of be a departure from that, obviously. But, you know, Connecticut is as well. Obviously, Vegas is as well. So it's not without precedent. So,
yeah, and the big thing is this gives you another franchise in the Southeast. Kind of, you're basically Indiana and Atlanta, and Indiana, obviously not in the Southeast, but that's your closest drivable franchise, other than if you want to really load up and go out to Dallas. So this kind of, solidifies. And then just while you got the map up, a couple more out on the West Coast with the Bay Area, and then Portland, and then obviously Toronto is that market that they really wanted to tap into for a while and finally breaking through. So add Nashville to the mix, and all of a sudden, yeah, could be pretty sweet in my opinion.
And again, we talked with Sherry Camp last week, and Nashville, Middle Tennessee, I don't think there's any question on a national basis that, women's basketball is a highly respected sport in this area, and you feel like it would do great here, and would certainly love to get the opportunity to prove that. So something we'll be keeping an eye on. Aja Wilson over the weekend became the first WNBA player to ever score 1,000 points in a season. She is, with that, obviously the single season scoring record holder. Well, she is now the single season rebounding record holder as well. She was 2 rebounds behind the record set earlier this year by Angel Reese before she sustained that wrist injury that put her out for the rest of the season. So she got her third board midway through the opening quarter of their win over night, and now has 447, the most in a single season. Averaging a double-double, 26.9 points, 11.9 rebounds. Again, if she is not your MVP, I don't know who is.
Oh yeah, without question. And she's a runaway for the award. She's setting records left and right. Bam Adebayo, may or may not be the significant other, but man, he's really showing a lot of love on social media. So she's living a charmed life right now. She can do no wrong. And the Aces are also benefiting because, yeah, they're playing a lot better here down the stretch, which is going to be fun to watch heading into the postseason.
Absolutely. 21 points, 7 rebounds for Wilson in last night's
13-point win.
Yeah, 85-72 win over Seattle. So
and that was a huge win because, like we mentioned on the show yesterday, top 4 hit those buys, and that was the 4 versus 5 matchup. So Seattle's going to get left out in that regard now.
Speaking of buys, postseason and the like, well, none of these teams are competing for buys, but as we read during the rundown, Atlanta with that win over the Sky moves ahead of the Sky and the Mystics for the final 8th berth in the postseason. Atlanta improving to 14-25 with that win. Both Chicago and the Mystics fell to 13-26 as the Mystics lost to the Liberty. So tomorrow night, you've got Atlanta playing at the Liberty. Chicago is at the Connecticut Sun, and the Mystics host Indiana. So this is going to go right down to the wire, obviously. If you're a Dream fan, you are certainly hoping that Connecticut and Indiana can take care of business, and that way you can absorb a loss to the Liberty and still get in. But
yeah, the scenario
must see TV tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun night. to close things out in the regular season. The scenarios, I saw them tweeted out last night, and even some of the writers that were putting them out were kind of amending their own tweets and saying, "Hey, let me go back and check this again," because there's a lot of tiebreakers that are being involved. But the main thing is the Dream are massively favored to potentially sew up that spot. ESPN projecting them at about an 83.5% right now. The Mystics at 9.1, Sky at 7.4. So the Dream, despite the fact they got a wild opponent in their final game, they do have some things that are going in their favor. They took care of business last night to maybe absorb, like you said, a loss tomorrow night.
Dream Liberty on NBA TV tomorrow night, 6 o'clock tip. Fever Mystics on Amazon Prime, 6 o'clock tip. Unfortunately, Sky, Sun, no TV. So you'll have to monitor social media, I would imagine.
I'll sell my login to somebody if they want to come holla at me. We'll hook you up with the WNBA TV.
Holla at your boy, absolutely. News out of the Atlantic Coast Conference, and I think this might be something that started to kind of bubble up over the weekend, but apparently the conference is trying to come up with a new revenue model and a shortened grant of rights to possibly end whatever's going on with Florida State and Clemson and ideally keep them both.
As the ACC turns, right?
Hey, yeah, exactly. Exploring a new revenue structure. Is that a new revenue structure that's going to give Florida State and Clemson more than everybody else? Or, I mean, how does that work exactly? Florida State and Clemson returning to the negotiating table would come in stark contrast to recent developments. In August, talks with Florida State got nowhere. Not heard a whole lot out of Clemson here of late, but this is almost a last-ditch effort to some degree, it feels like, for the ACC.
Yeah, this has kind of been one that when it initially went down, everybody was kind of scratching their head saying, whoa, this seems like it could be a big deal. And then we kind of went into a little bit of a lull, like you said, especially with Clemson. FSU, I don't know if they have the right to be unhappy with anything with the conference right now. They got to figure out their own situation. They're lucky that Memphis is not just in the ACC in their spot now after last week.
Was it you that mentioned relegation, or did I read that somewhere else?
It might have been somewhere else, but yeah, that should have been a play-in game, basically.
Meanwhile, Memphis to the Pac-12 is continuing to kind of be a talking point.
That could end up being a sweet league. I know the logistics and the travel. Good news for Memphis, we've got some nice deep pockets over there. But as far as a competitive standpoint, as far as a competitive standpoint, that's one to keep your eyes on going forward. That could be a really fun league that maybe rises from the ashes there.
You know what? As you say that, Memphis, San Diego State is not a bad matchup. Memphis, Boise,
I'm saying, I'm here for all of that.
Yeah.
Memphis is not an honorary, they would be an honorary after dark participant. I mean, everybody was scratching their heads on Twitter last week with I think it was Cal, when Jeff Wilcox had to get the referee's microphone and was telling the fans not to throw the stuff on the field. We can't tweet Pac-12 after dark anymore. ACC after dark kind of doesn't have the same ring. No. But Memphis kind of fits in there. They kind of have some wild, unusual stories. We've predominantly talked about men's basketball and their struggles. So they kind of would maybe fit in. Give me a little Memphis after dark type situation. I could see them in Fresno, some chicanery going on a 11 p.m. on a Saturday night.
They're just chaotic enough that it might be a good fit. Absolutely.
I think so.
Yeah. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we'll be joined by Chris Lee of Southeastern16.com, talking a little SEC football. Stay tuned. when we come back.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
He shoots, and he scores!
Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. In our final segment, Wade and I will be bringing you our weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe, so be sure and stick around for that. Right now, we're going to visit with Chris Lee of Southeastern16.com, SEC football. Chris, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon to you.
What's happening?
Excuse the voice. I've done about 5 hours of broadcasting today, so I hope it holds up here.
It's that time of year, huh?
Yeah, it really is.
It's good to be busy though. It's as long as you can power through it, I guess. So
well, it's good to have good games, although we're still a week out from the best.
What was the game from this weekend that was most intriguing to you in its outcome? Maybe. How's that?
Maybe Georgia, Kentucky, just because we kind of all buried Kentucky the week before and it's 13-12. And maybe that leaves you with questions about Georgia. But Kentucky's also a team that's always matched up well with them for whatever reason. I kind of always give a team a pass for like against one team. You know, there's that team that always just figures you out and plays you closer than the score should indicate. So I kind of give Kentucky or Georgia some benefit of the doubt there. And also Kentucky's defense is really good. I guess part two would be LSU, South Carolina, which is just right there for the taking for South Carolina. Some would say the officials wouldn't let them have it. I don't know that I'd go that far, but I don't like the way the game is officiated. I feel like that played out in that game a little bit too. But if LSU had lost that one, then you can imagine the outcry against Brian Kelly. But he got a close win on the road, and so all is well there. And of course, Florida. That's a whole story for a different reason than that one. Who knows how much longer that's going to go with Billy Napier?
That's a heck of a question, I think. Going back to Georgia, Kentucky for just a second, there was talk during the preseason that was the game that Georgia was going to lose. I mean, a lot of folks were on that game and on that boat as far as that goes. And a lot of people knew a lot clearly because it was a 1-point ball game. I didn't really understand what it was about that matchup, but to your point, Kentucky has managed to play Georgia close and has kind of had their number to some degree, and clearly it played out that way.
Well, you also have the Brock Vandagriff angle. He was, of course, Georgia's backup quarterback, was a 5-star recruit. But the weird thing is, like, they're averaging under 4 yards of pass play if you take sacks into consideration. So nobody had that, I think, on the radar, especially with the talented guys they've got. But it's just that's a weird team, Kentucky, right now.
Yeah, seems so. My question about Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech is, does that loss for Vanderbilt wipe out all of the goodwill in the fan base that the Virginia Tech win built up?
Most of it. I mean, I think it's just kind of a sign of where they are as a program. They're clearly better, or they wouldn't have beaten Virginia Tech, but they're clearly also not out of the woods where they, we're losing the game like that is off the table.
And as a Vanderbilt observer, where does that put you, Chris?
About right back where you started. I mean, look, if you were going to have a meaningful season, right? I think bowl eligibility, I mean, you can make the case that 5 wins is a nice season for where they are, but they did that 2 years ago and it didn't really get them anywhere. Is there 2-10 the next year? But I think, look, you had to have that game if a bowl was going to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna get Ball State. They're going to be a 20-point favorite in that, barring disaster. I mean, you never count anything as automatic with Vandy, but they're probably going to get that one. It'll be a much bigger favor in that one than they were against Georgia State. Ball State's probably a bottom 10 team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But and you look beyond that and you go, okay, where else could they get wins? I would say at Kentucky would be on the list of games that they could get based on you won the last time you were there and Kentucky's having trouble scoring points, a 14-13 type game, which that could be, is anybody's ball game. So I think that's one you put on the list. So you got Ball State is presumably a 3rd win. Kentucky, a game you could win. And then you say, well, okay, there's Auburn, maybe that's in November. We just don't know where this quarterback thing is going to go. And Auburn's one of those schools, like, when it falls apart, it really falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another one. South Carolina would be one that's probably going to be a single-digit line, but they hadn't beaten Carolina since 2008. That's been close a few times. So that's 6, right, that you may have a shot in. Once you get past that, it's like, okay, well, what if it's falling apart at LSU? Next to last game of the season, maybe Brian Kelly's about to be fired. Maybe they've lost interest. Kids that got one foot in the portal. And, maybe Vandy's still bought in. Other than that, it's 4 teams that are contending for national titles, maybe starting with this weekend. And we've said, okay, that's Ball State, that's Kentucky, that's Auburn, and that's South Carolina. Oh, by the way, you got to win all 4 of those.
No room for error.
No.
Yeah.
Chris, let's go pure clickbait mode for just 1 second. Did Texas earn number 1 or did Georgia hand it to them in your mind?
Hey, you stole my question.
Yeah,
that's clickbait. Everybody's asking that question.
Well, but that's the question that I asked Wade on Monday, I think. So, but yeah, we would love to hear your input on it.
My answer, honestly, is I don't care. I don't really spend a lot of time dwelling on polls.
Very clickbaity of an answer right there.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm not helping you out, am I? Well, look, I mean, Georgia did leave something on the table, and Texas has gone and gotten one of the better wins in the country at Michigan, although I don't really know what Michigan is. They can't move the ball. I mean, we're at a point where we played 3 weeks and the schedules have been very disparate. I mean, Ole Miss is maybe a national title contender, but they haven't played much of anybody. Tennessee hasn't played much of anybody. I guess you could say NC State, but I think they're very ordinary at best. Look, I keep a set of power rankings that kind of tells me what would the lines be if these teams played. You got 6 teams right at the top, 5 of them from the SEC and Ohio State. Missouri would be outside that group, but Missouri could play its way in. I think it's and there's not, I don't know if there's a field goal difference between those 6 teams. So to me, it's fun to argue and have clickbaity stuff at this time of the season, but it doesn't really matter. All the big games, or 95% of the big games, are in front of us. That's what's going to determine it. And until then, it's just, okay, let's talk about why your 70-point beatdown of Kent State was better than my 76-point beatdown of Furman, and your field goal win over somebody, and that's I just don't think that it's fun to talk about it, but it doesn't really solve anything.
All right, so same vein of a question, but let's phrase it a different way. Did Georgia show enough, or did Georgia give us enough cause for concern that maybe they are not quite as much of a pure juggernaut as we thought?
I think that's on the table. Again, back to the power rankings I look at, Georgia was considered about 6 points better to start the season than it is now. Now look, they should have, according to like Sagarin, which is the only thing you can use to really compare FBS to FCS teams, they should have beaten Tennessee Tech by 60. They beat them by 42 or whatever it was. And so that probably is a data point. They were double-digit favorites at Kentucky. They won that by 1 instead. So that's what you're putting into the system at this point to make those calculations. I just don't know what it means at this point. And Georgia also is a team that you've seen them look pedestrian here and there, and then they come out and just open up a can of destruction on the next guy. So I'm not drawing too many conclusions, but it is, I mean, it's a fair question at this point. I mean, I don't know how much staying power it's going to have, but yeah, I thought they'd go up and handle Kentucky by more than they did. So it's something to keep in your back pocket if it happens again.
One of those results that when you see or the games you watch, you just take away and you go,
yeah,
is the way I kind of took it. The Georgia, maybe I'm not really changing much of my expectation for them, but just enough to make me go, just a little bit.
No, that's a perfect way to put it.
I think it is as well. Chris Lee of Southeastern16.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Speaking of 70-point wins over Kent State, and actually it was 71, Chris. But what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts as Tennessee goes into Oklahoma this weekend?
That'll be hands down the best defense they've played. Hands down. They've got 2 All-Americans on the back 7 and Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman. Their line's really good. They got a lot of depth at defensive back when it's all healthy. One of those kids is Woody Washington, by the way, Mo. I'm sure you know that name from Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
They're really talented. I think they're one of the 3 or 4 most talented defenses in the league. The issue with them is I don't know about scoring. And some of that is just bad luck. They've had an incredible rash of injuries on the offensive line. They've had, some have said that Gavin Sawchuk, who's maybe their best running back, he hasn't been himself. Maybe he's hurt. They've had several receivers hurt. So they haven't had a full deck. But, man, you just look. And I know it's Kent State. I know I don't think that could stop the 3 of us. But, my goodness, they're just putting points on everybody so far.
Mm-hmm.
you know Josh Heupel's track record with offense, and look, every time Josh Heupel has a competent quarterback, look out. Last year was kind of the exception. Joe Milton was okay. He had his deficiencies. We all know what they were. But you give him a great quarterback, which it appears they've got, and look out. And, their running game's really good. I think for Oklahoma, I would feel better about Oklahoma's chances if they had done more on offense. And they just haven't. And I don't know if they've got enough healthy pieces to put together and have the transformation in 1 week that you need to beat Tennessee. And, oh, by the way, Tennessee's defense is pretty good too.
Yeah. Temple, Houston, and Tulane, and none of those wins particularly impressive for Oklahoma. Meanwhile, Jordan Moore at Jordan Moore _21. Oklahoma has the lowest graded offensive line among P4 teams in college football, according to Pro Football Focus. So, and with James Pierce, over there on the other side for Tennessee, that could make things a little interesting in Norman this weekend.
I was watching them in their opener against Temple, and look, they had 5 new offensive linemen anyway. They hit the portal, but they landed what they thought were some good ones. Their center was a kid named Branson Hickman from SMU, one of probably the higher rated centers around, and he got hurt in the first quarter of that game. And they had to shuffle around. They shuffled a kid named Jarian Hatchett, I think, to center. He got hurt. He's done for the year. I don't think Hickman's played since, and they just hadn't looked the same. I thought they looked pretty good their first couple offensive drives. And it was Temple, so what's it worth? Probably not a lot, but there was they kept playing the same team throughout the game, obviously, and there was a drop off. So you could see it when you watched them play. And I don't mean to make light of injury, but I had to laugh a little bit. You're reading their injury report last week, and their third center, whose name I've forgotten, they were talking about how he's only playing with one good arm right now. And I'm like, you're down to your third center, and he's got one arm he can use. That's not a great spot.
That's not a promising sign.
No. And I think they're getting a couple of guys back this week that might help. I mean, we'll see what the injury report is Wednesday, but I mean, that's kind of a guilty with an explanation, Your Honor, answer for Oklahoma's offensive line, but it is what it is. And it's not a place where you want to be, where you're facing James Pierce and some of the other guys that Tennessee is going to throw at you.
Yeah, Chris, that's my question is what does and you sort of have answered this, but I guess what is the true path to victory considering the limitations with Oklahoma's offense? What is the real path to victory for them? Are they going to need a defensive score or just a pure clunker from Tennessee on their offensive end?
I think they're going to need an advantage in turnover margin. Maybe you need a pick six, which they're capable of doing. Billy Bowman's run several back in his career. He's really, really good at safety. You're going to need that. You're going to need a pick six, maybe some short fields with turnovers. You're definitely needing the turnover advantage. It's probably going to be third down stops. And look, I know Oklahoma's banged up, but they got a quarterback in Jackson Arnold who's pretty talented. He wasn't rated maybe quite as high as Nico, but it was really close. He was a consensus 5-star, and he did throw a pick six last week, but he also made a really good run in the fourth quarter, touchdown run in traffic that was probably the biggest play of the game. They got Deion Burks from Purdue. He's a really good receiver, one of the better ones in the league. If they get Nick Anderson back, that's going to help. They've got enough parts where they can score some points on Tennessee. If you get some health and continuity on your offensive line, but I think your defense is going to have to be the side that wins you the game if you're Oklahoma.
Chris Lee of Southeastern 16 joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Bigger loss, Chris, Vanderbilt at Georgia State or Mississippi State at home against Toledo?
I think Vandy. I think that Vandy had a shot to go places. I'm not sure State did. I watched a lot of that game against Arizona State. They got obliterated. They couldn't stop the run. I didn't think they had enough athletes in the front seven, and that seems to be how it's bearing out. Vandy, I mean, I still think they can sneak up and upset somebody, but again, that's a game they had to win. Mm-hmm. I think the lines on both games were about the same, although I think the Georgia State line was down to 8.5. Toledo's a team Jason Candles won 9 games every year, in his 9 years at Toledo. That was a team I said, hey, look out. They're kind of sneaky good, could beat you. Didn't think it would happen, but I think that if I'm playing both teams on a neutral field right now, I think I'm taking Vandy by a little bit. But I think both of them Vandy kind of blew its shot to have a big year. It feels like last season or last week.
That's a tough feeling to have, but yeah, I mean, it's certainly felt deflating at the end of the night, Saturday night. You mentioned Tennessee, Oklahoma, probably the biggest game of the week. What's number 2 in the league?
I like Arkansas Auburn. I think that's a really interesting game. I like Arkansas to win it, even though they're a road underdog. I just trust their quarterback situation a lot more right now. No offense to Hank Brown, who's a Nashville native, but I don't know that you learn much by beating New Mexico. It might be the worst defense in the FBS. Nick Howell, who was Vandy's defensive coordinator and didn't set the world on fire here, is their coordinator there. I just don't think you learn a lot of games. I mean, when we should have learned this in the Alabama A&M game. Auburn beating the tar out of an inferior opponent doesn't really teach you anything. I think Arkansas's defense is good enough to get some stops. The running game's going to be – but I don't know if you guys have watched much Arkansas. They are fun to watch. Taylon Green, their quarterback, is really good. He's tall. He's athletic. Bobby Petrino's offenses are fun. Jaquindon Jackson, their transfer from Utah, is one of the better backs in the league. They got a tight end named Luke Haas that I really like. Andrew Armstrong's doing some stuff. I like the way they look, guys. That Oklahoma State game, they won it until they just blew it. That team should be 3-0. I think they were a little hungover last week. Maybe I'm wrong. Hugh Freeze always kind of at Auburn seems to do the thing you don't expect him to do, which probably means, take Auburn and a bunch of money. But I just what I've seen so far, I like Arkansas better, and I trust Bobby Petrino to win that game.
Chris, I got to ask you, earlier today, I believe it was, or maybe yesterday, Feinbaum says that Arch Manning, quote, proved he can take Texas to the national championship. Is this a manufactured? There's not a quarterback controversy, at least yet, right?
Look, Paul, and no offense to Pine, he was saying before the season that Arch Manning was going to win the job and all those things, blah, blah, blah. Quinn Ewers is pretty good too.
Yes, yes.
They got a great problem there to have. Great problem. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't see a scenario in which you bench Quinn Ewers. Now maybe he gets hurt and Arch takes I don't know. It doesn't make sense. The guy took you to a playoff berth last year. I don't, unless there's a reason to change, I don't see one yet. I don't know why you do.
Only thing I'm picturing is, if Ewers remains, or Manning kind of is in there, and say the Georgia game sneaks up on you and Manning ends up having to start and leads him to this great victory. I mean, I'm not saying it gives Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe vibes, but it almost kind of feels like that's the way that it would happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I had that exact thought too before you said it, but that was a little different situation. I think Bledsoe was getting maybe up there in years at that point. I mean, that's kind of a one-off. I'm not a big fan of benching the guy who led you to the playoffs last year, won you the game at Alabama, and is a Heisman candidate just because. I mean, maybe Arch Manning ends up being that much better, and they do it, but I'm just not there yet.
I'm with you.
So you're saying this isn't Kelly Bryant, Trevor Lawrence, then?
I don't know. That's one I hadn't thought about in a while either. But yeah.
Chris, you briefly mentioned Florida. Yeah, you briefly mentioned Florida, and obviously, there are things circling down in Gainesville right now. After that 33-20 loss to Texas A&M, is there any way Florida loses at Starkville this weekend? And if so, is there any way Billy Napier comes back to Gainesville after the game?
Yeah. I mean, there's a way they lose. It's a 6-point line. I would be interested in how interested Florida is in playing the game. I mean, those players aren't deaf. Yeah, they didn't look great. I think they're the better team. I think they're more talented team. If they show up and play, they should win the game. But it's college football right now, and it's ask Notre Dame. Unpredictable things happen. It doesn't feel like anything's imminent, but it feels like, I don't know. I think right now one of the issues you have is you have an interim president. You have an AD that's not very popular. So, like, where do the strings get pulled from? And I think eventually money's probably going to talk, but I don't know. Now, I can see if you get to week 10, you might want to get a head start on a head coach, get your NIL stuff together, get somebody that they can be behind. But I don't also see the point in firing Billy Napier after 3 weeks. I mean, somebody else has got a coach. I don't know how fair that is to the kids. I'm sure a lot of those kids like Billy Napier. I never, and it's not like Billy Napier's a guy that's going to embarrass you either, right? I mean, he's one of the reasons he got hired. He had a great reputation, supposed to be just a really good, decent human being. I don't see why you need to make a change week 4. Maybe you need to do it by week 10 or 11 to get out ahead of everybody else. But right now, to me, just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay. All right. Chris Lee of Southeastern16.com. You can find him on Twitter at Chris Lee 70. Chris, as always, we appreciate it. And look forward to catching up with you here again soon.
Hey, thanks, guys, for having me. It's always fun.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, man. Let's take a break. Let's come back to the Lee Company studios here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And let's give you Wild and Wacky Wednesday, the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Stay tuned when we come back.
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yes, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. This is the final segment of today's show. Time to get wild and wacky. And let's start in Missouri, where everything isn't always what it seems, because the CEO of Waffle House, Walt Ehmer, Ehmer, Emmer, I'm not sure, passed away in early September. Not long afterwards, Nixa highly touted offensive lineman Jackson Cantwell. There was video of him leading his Nixa High School football team onto the field with a Waffle House flag. It went viral. We've got it there, just the wrong side. But yeah, and it was thought to be in tribute to
Mr. Emer in his passing. Turns out Nixa began flying the Waffle House flag among a number of flags that they would come onto the field carrying. Back in 2021, Nixa's receivers called themselves Waffle House because they were open 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Yes, sir.
And Cantwell just they kept the flag. They've continued to fly the flag periodically as they come onto the field. Cantwell just happened to be the one carrying it here recently when it was videoed, and like I said, it's gone viral. It's had 6.5 million views of his, their run out onto the field with the Waffle House flag. And I mean, if that's not an NIL deal just waiting right there for young Mr. Cantwell, then I don't know what is. But that's kind of crazy.
That is wild. That is wacky. We do love Waffle House on this program, and I mean, like you said, that's one of those NIL deals. I don't know how calculated it was, but if it was calculated, it's a genius move because this dude's offer list is off the charts. Tennessee, Wisconsin, Michigan, LSU. Everybody's on this guy as a 5-star lineman. So I mean, this is savvy right here.
It's either savvy or it's just the luckiest luck you could have.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes, blind luck.
There you go. Well, what is it they say? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So, hey, hand it to Mr. Cantwell, who intentionally or otherwise may be on his way to securing the bag. Wade, you've got another food entry.
Yeah, this one was coming down last night. We love Charles Huff, the Marshall head coach.
Former Alabama assistant, right?
Yeah, poor Marshall, by the way. They had the biggest win over Notre Dame in history before Northern Illinois came in and took care of them. But, yeah, they're a 40-point underdog versus Ohio State this weekend. And leading up to the game, Coach Huff said, hey, we would probably be a little bit closer if we could recruit some of their players. And so he said that if some of the Ohio State guys would come to Marshall, he would hook them up with a sweet deal of NIL, all-you-can-eat Tudor's biscuits. I've never had a Tudor's biscuit. But Coach Huff, the way he was going on about it, it seemed like it was a pretty good biscuit.
Yeah, it almost makes you want to go up there and check it out.
He's what is the direct quote here? He said, I feel good about the track we're on. I feel good about the players we have, but I would love to have some of them Ohio State guys too. So if they want to transfer, we've got a Tudor's biscuit NIL, all you can eat. And I promise you all you can eat today if you transfer here. So, I mean,
you don't want
Waffle House and biscuits. NILs are out there left and right in the food realm.
You don't want those guys eating too many of those biscuits, though.
That is exactly what I thought too. I was like, hey, he's talking about the speedy receivers. I don't know if I want my speedy receivers loading up on biscuits before the game.
Yeah, not the great. Well, I mean, maybe they're speedy enough that even a few biscuits won't hurt them.
I guess so. We need to check this out. I was unfamiliar with Tudor's Biscuit World, which is based in Huntington, and so
a biscuit chain. Huh?
Maybe we could, have some connections. Send us a box down, and we can sample and see if it's NIL level worthy.
If we know anybody in Huntington, yeah, we could take a care package here on Main Street Sports today. I wonder if they mail biscuits to Malaysia, because there is a jogger over there that could use some extra nutrition. Vicious Malaysian otters. I was not familiar.
No.
I never really thought of otters as anything other than just cute and fun to watch. But a woman was left in a pool of her own blood after getting attacked by 8 otters in Malaysia. She was jogging through a park and they attacked her, and she is bloodied and crying, and understandably so. I mean, nobody expects to be attacked by otters.
No,
otters.
And I mean that's them above her. I mean
yeah.
I don't know. They look a little vicious all together like that.
Well, they do look a little vicious together like that. I've
intimidating.
a lot intimidating. Yeah. Blood visible on her arms and head, and several gouges in her legs. 8 of them.
Goodness gracious.
An octet of otters.
No, I don't want to be part of that now.
No.
There's been quite a few animals on this program that have now been. I've had to change my perception of, and that's added to the otters list there.
Well, otters are in the same family as honey badgers and wolverines. So,
yeah,
take from that what you will.
Hey, there's a reason Michigan don't have a live mascot. Just think about that.
Yeah, because nobody wants to keep it, right?
Just think about that. There's a reason there ain't a live Wolverine on the sidelines.
Oh, and thank goodness. Keeping it in the animal kingdom, Florida man, which we've not heard on this show in a long time, removes 20 Burmese pythons from the Florida Everglades. Apparently, the Florida Python Challenge is put on by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Ronald Kiger won $10,000 for removing 20 Burmese pythons over 10 days. The hunt was meant to bring awareness to the threat that these pythons pose to the ecosystem and to residents if you ain't careful, I guess.
Seriously.
Kiger was last year's runner-up. This year he won the competition, as it were, again, removing 20 of them. Donna Khalil, who works with the South Florida Water Management District, won $2,500 for catching 19 pythons. A total of 5 Burmese pythons were caught during the 10-day event last month. Hunters were tasked with humanely killing the Burmese pythons and turning in the carcasses to one of 3 checkpoints in South Florida. The hunt served to raise awareness about the dangers of Burmese pythons. We have to talk about the dangers of Burmese pythons. It seems pretty self-explanatory to me, but I mean, hey, what do I know? Like how they can affect native snakes, can spread diseases among native animals, and have high mercury levels that are dangerous for human consumption. Okay. Last year, 209 pythons were removed by more than 1,000 hunters. Again, this year, 195 pythons were taken. So kudos to y'all. It's not something I'll be doing, but hey, I'm glad y'all had fun.
How'd you win this money?
Removing pythons.
What'd you? Yeah. Hey, honey. Oh, that's awful nice. You brought me some money. How'd you win? How'd you get this money? Don't ask.
No, don't ask, don't tell. Yeah. Real quick, Wade. If you were going to take a joyride on something, it wouldn't be on a subway, would it?
I would think so. No.
I mean, where are you going to go with it? But apparently, New York City officials are looking for a couple who took a subway on a brief joyride before they crashed it and fled. She was all in pink, including a pink shower cap. He had on a blue tank top. They grabbed an unoccupied train, somehow got it running, drove it briefly. I mean, I don't know how much there is to driving it. It's on the tracks, but ran it into another parked train and then ran. I mean, it's a subway train. Where are you going with it?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to do it for Wild and Wacky.
The outfits were epic, though.
The outfits were indeed epic, and I bet they were being pictured either. That's going to do it for Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Be sure and join us again tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Also, get yourself a snack, get you something to drink, come back and check out Southern Middle Tennessee High School Football Show right here starting at 5 o'clock. We'll see y'all tomorrow.